for joining me, Caitlin. So, welcome to the Strong, Healthy and Glowing podcast for this week. I've got Caitlin Lili with me today, and Caitlin is a relationship coach, a certified breathwork facilitator, and a mum of two based in Los Angeles, who teaches women and couples how to connect vulnerably so they can experience a deeper connection and sex that goes from do we have to when can we? And I think this kind of thing is so important. Relationships, connection, and like are so important when it comes to our wellness. So, Caitlin, I'll throw it over to you to introduce yourself in a bit more detail.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for having me on today, Sarah. So I'll share a little bit about my journey. So I had my first child when I was 19. I got pregnant when I was 18. I had Roman when I was 19. And that relationship was extremely tumultuous. It was filled with like lots of blow-ups and jealousy and cheating. And that relationship was a little disastrous. And then a couple of years later, I got married to someone else, and that relationship was less tumultuous, but I really found that like I had no tools to navigate a marriage. Like it was filled with lots of silent treatment, hoping that he could read my mind, not being able to say what I want. And so when we separated in 2019, I was just like, okay, I can't ever do that again. I cannot ever do relationships this way again. And since 2019, I've been on this really deep personal development transformational journey. I've like just invested years and so much money into changing myself so that I can show up differently in relationships and now bring everything that I have learned forward to other people so that I can support them in their relationships.
Oh, that's so good. So, is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
No, I don't think so.
Nice. So the first question I always like to ask my guests on the podcast is, what does strong, healthy, and glowing mean to you?
Strong, healthy, and glowing. Yeah. So what strong, healthy, and glowing means to me is being in congruence with myself and really understanding and being willing to go for what I need to take care of myself in each moment, even if there may be impact on other people. And being willing to put myself first and really prioritize my needs so that I can give from a place of overflow. One thing that also comes to mind around glowing is like being in touch with my desire from moment to moment and understanding that may shift at different times of the month, depending on where I'm at with my cycle. What I may want in the morning may be different from what I want in the evening. And part of being glowing to me is like really following that thread of desire and being okay with my path shifting.
That is everything. I actually I recorded a little video that I put up on my YouTube just last week that was all about the times of the month and syncing your workouts and that kind of thing to your cycle. So I'm just going to throw in a little question that you may or may not be expecting, but
perfect.
Is there any tips or tricks around relationships or dating to fit in with your cycle?
Yeah, I love this question. And absolutely. One thing that I started doing in my relationship was scheduling important conversations around my cycle. So once a month, we would have a relationship check-in where we would ask each other, what's working well in our relationship right now? 2, are there any resentments that you need to clear? And 3, what would you like more of from me this coming month? And we would schedule that conversation during my ovulation phase, because that is the phase where I am most have like highest energy, clearest mind, creative space, like more willing to be solution oriented and like see possibility. Whereas if I were to have that conversation in my luteal phase, it's like everything is wrong and like like everything just feels so hard. And so one of the things that I really recommend to my clients is schedule. Of course, things come up. Some things come up and are unavoidable when you need to deal with them. But as best you can, scheduling conversations around your cycle. And also, if you're dating, scheduling dates around your cycle. And like, week before your period, first day of your period is probably not an ideal day of the month to go out and meet someone new. So I actually like really, this is something I feel really strongly about is planning around your cycle. So I really appreciate that question. Thank you for bringing that in.
Oh, all good. My pleasure. Yeah, it's something that I've sort of started looking at with my clients and workouts and that kind of thing, because I do obviously a lot of work around fitness, and and also nutrition and that kind of thing. It all gets so bound up in our cycles and the time of the month and what we need to eat, what we feel like eating to nourish our bodies, and everything is just so related to that. So it's really interesting to hear how it affects relationships and dating, and some tips around that. So that's really interesting. And then speaking of, because we mentioned obviously going into dating and relationships, dating and relationships for some people can be regarded as a little bit of a minefield. So what, I guess, what are some of your tips, and what would you say around that?
Yeah. Well, I can speak to the dating piece first. One of the things that I really like to work with on my clients is first getting clear on what they want. I don't know if you remember that movie, Runaway Bride, that Julia Roberts movie, and she changes the type of eggs that she likes with every man that she dates. Do you remember that? And it can be so easy to do that if you're not clear on what you are dating for. Like, are you dating for marriage? Are you dating just to have fun experiences? Are you dating do you want kids? Like, if you don't feel clear on your values and the reason of why you're dating, your goal, you will likely end up just going along with whatever the other person wants. Because if you're not clear, you're just going to follow that. And so the first thing that I like to really support my clients with when they're dating is getting really clear on what they want, what their goals are. And another thing that's important is, a lot of women like to do their manifestation list. Like, okay, I want a man who is 6 feet tall, who is, fit. I want a man who makes 6 figures. I want a man who, the manifestation list goes on. And what I like to work with them on is, how would those things make you feel? So if you want a man who is 6 feet tall and fit, how would that make you feel? It's like, oh, I want to feel like safe and protected in his presence. And if you want a man who makes 6 figures, how would that make you feel? Like, oh, I want to feel provided for. So when you can make your list with your feelings, like, I want to feel safe, I want to feel protected, I want to feel provided for, you can start to feel into the body sensations of like, does my body feel safe in the presence of this man? Yes. And then maybe he's 5'8". Like he doesn't have to be 6 feet tall, but like the feeling that you want, the sensation in your body is to feel safe and protected. And maybe he doesn't make six figures, but like he's just striving so hard to provide for you. And, like he's like, baby, I don't have it now, but like I can't wait to buy you a house one day. And, it's like, how does he make your body feel? And really start to get more in tune with that than being really attached to exactly how it needs to look.
So good. So I know in my experience, a lot of us get so caught up in what's going on in our head, in the numbers, in the analysis of things and that kind of thing. So how do we go from getting caught up in those numbers and the facts to how it makes us feel? So do you have any tips for people to get in touch with those feelings and get in touch with our body?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I would say one of the things that I like to do is like get really clear on what is coming up for you when he doesn't text you back right away. And like what is propelling your actions? So a lot of women say like, I want a man who takes the lead. But at the same time, like they're pursuing, they're sending the text like, hey, can we see each other this weekend? Or hey, like I had so much fun. Like when can I see you again? And to really slow down and be with your body, like be with the sensation that's in your body. When you want to text him, again, triple text this man because he hasn't texted you back. Where are you feeling that in your body? And if you just like really slow down and like, oh, I notice a tightness in my chest. I'm like, okay, breathe into that tightness, like what's there? And there's often just fear. Or there's unworthiness of like, or beliefs like if I don't text him, he won't text me. Or if I don't chase him, like he'll leave me. There's like abandonment stuff. And so I really work with my clients on like slowing down, being with the sensations that come up in their body and being clear on like what is propelling their behavior. And another thing that's really important to me in my work is supporting my clients in being able to hold more sensation in their body. Um, and I like literally, it's like we teach what we need. I had this experience the other day where I texted this man and it was pretty vulnerable and he didn't get back to me for about 5 hours. And it was so uncomfortable. Like it was so much sensation to hold in my body. And often what would propel us to be like, hey, did you get my text? Or like, hey, why aren't you answering? Is because the sensation in our body is so uncomfortable that we can't hold it. And so we reach out or do something again or pursue just to dissipate the discomfort that we're holding in our body. And so I really like to work with people on expanding their capacity to hold sensation so that when these things occur, they have a bigger window of tolerance for it. And I just want to add one more thing on there, like, and getting really clear on what their expectations versus like what their standards are. So, it's like if he doesn't text me back within 5 hours, am I holding an expectation there that he texts me back immediately? Like, do I feel entitled to his time? Perhaps a standard of mine would be like, 24 hours feels like, yeah, if they're texting me back like 2-3 days later, that actually just doesn't work for me. Like that doesn't feel respectful or connective, and that would feel like a breach of standards for me. Whereas 5 hours pass in the workday, that's normal, and that would just be actually like an expectation or a an entitlement that I'm holding to his time. So also getting clear on the differences between expectations and standards in dating is and relationships is incredibly supportive.
Mm, mm. Yeah, that's so good. So, so good. Because I think we all have these things that we expect things, and is that matching with what the other person is wanting or expecting as well? So speaking
Yeah.
of that, do you have any tips if you find that your expectations or standards are not being met?
Mm.
What would your tips be?
Yeah, I did want to speak for 1 second just to one thing I didn't
Mm,
mention about the expectations versus standards, and then I'll lead right into this, is like what I find is that when a standard isn't met, it feels pretty neutral in the body. Like if someone didn't get back to me within 2 to 3 days, I would be like, huh, yeah, like that doesn't work for me. I wouldn't feel like a ton of tightness or sensation in my body. It would a when a standard's not met, it feels pretty clear in the body.
mm,
Whereas when it's an expectation of someone else that is not theirs to meet, we will often feel a lot of tightness in our body or like a lot of sensation in our body. So that's just like one tip of how to identify like an expectation versus a standard, and sometimes it's difficult to tell the difference. Um, and then circling back to your question of like what to do if it's not met, I would say if a standard is not being met, it's time to have a conversation about it. So if it's the scenario where he didn't get back to me for 5 hours, I think then I need to examine why I need that. What is it bringing up in me? What's coming up for me? Whereas if a standard's not being met, texting 2 to 3 days later or things like that, it's time to have a conversation and just like really honestly bringing the problem. So what I like to do for these types of conversations is first get opt-in and say, hey, I'm having some feelings around something that I would like to share with you. Can you let me know when you're available for that? And that's so different than just being like, I'm pissed about this, and like they're not available to have the conversation. It's going to immediately put them on the defense. So
mm,
first getting opt-in and then sharing your intention for the conversation. So like, hey, I'm noticing I'm feeling some resentment, and my desire is to come back into connection with you. And this is why I'm sharing this with you. And then sharing your intention and then just sharing your feelings like, hey, something that's been coming up for me is that when I text you and you get back to me 2 to 3 days later, I feel like I'm not important to you. And I'm really enjoying our connection and you're really important to me. And I need to feel that you are experiencing you're valuing me in a similar way. And so perhaps we have different ideas of like what's an appropriate text time response. And so I was hoping that, we could problem solve this and see if we could come to an agreement of like we agree 24 hours or 48 hours or 12 hours or just problem solve it together and find the spot of what works for both of you. And
mm,
if you bring it in that way, such as expressing your feelings, wanting to be solution oriented, sharing your desire for connection, if they are unable or unwilling to have that conversation with you or like meet you in the middle, I would say that's just not a fit. That would be like an immediate no for me if that conversation wasn't taken seriously. And if they were like, gosh, yeah, I am so sorry. I'm so bad with my phone. I really see how that could have you not feeling valued. I can commit to responding within 24 hours and I'm sorry that I made you feel that way. Is like there's such a different energy between those two conversations. So yeah, I'd say when standards aren't being met, it's time to go if they're unwilling to meet you in the middle. And when expectations aren't being met, it's time to just turn the mirror inward and see what's going on in you.
It's, I think, yeah, so important to recognize the difference between the two and how to react, because it's quite a difference between the two.
Yeah, and I mean, like, dating and relationships are, to me, like ultimate triggers. Like when I'm single, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm Gandhi, like I'm this healed goddess, like nothing bothers me. I have got it. And then, it's like a romantic interest is with me, and it's like everything just feels like, so triggering. Like they're such mirrors to romantic relationships are such mirrors for the wounding that's inside of us. And so if we are not understanding that that's what's occurring, then it's really easy to just bounce from like relationship to relationship to relationship and to continue playing out the same dynamics and the same wounds with each person, with each new person, if we aren't willing to look at what is this person touching inside of me that needs love. Something that one of my first teachers taught me when I was like on this personal development path was this definition of healing that I really liked, which is that healing is simply applying love to the places inside that hurt. And so if we look at, romantic interests, whether that's someone we're dating or someone we are in partnership with, if we just look at them as our mirrors, someone who's going to show us places inside that just need some love to be applied, then that is very different than, he doesn't make me happy and he doesn't meet my needs. And it's just like a really different way to look at relationships.
Mm, mm. Yeah, it is. There's such a mirror, and it's oh. What more can I say?
What more?
Exactly. So how can, because obviously you're a relationship coach, so a lot of us go along trying to, do a lot of these things and fix a lot of these things ourselves. So how can coaching actually help us when it comes to dating and relationships?
Mm, yeah, I mean, I think that with anything, an outside perspective is so supportive. And it's like we hire coaches for like to help us run our business. Like we hire nutritionists, someone like you to like help us eat better. We hire people to teach us how to apply our makeup. Like we hire people for so many things. And for some reason, there seems to be some belief that we should just know how to be in relationship with no support. We should know how to date. We should know how to be in relationship. But the only examples that we have are like, Sex in the City, like that type of dating where they're just like emasculating the men and like running around and with like no concept and no goals. And then with relationships, like what we're taught in movies and stuff like culturally is just that Prince Charming should come and make you happy, and if he doesn't make you happy, then leave. And like that is just not the case. Like we're not taught how to communicate. We are not taught how to share what we want in bed. Like even just saying, "Hey, can you slow down a little bit?" can feel earth-shatteringly difficult at first. And so we aren't taught how to do these things. And you know, hiring someone to work with your dating or your relationship is just having a outside perspective can just often like highlight for you what you aren't seeing or patterns that you're playing out over and over and over. And it's just, yeah, just really supportive to have that third party support.
Outside perspective. So what and I guess that leads in then to how can relationships affect our mental and physical health, or dating? How can it affect our health?
Mm. Oh man, I have found that in the past, you know, it has like really affected my mental health. Like there can be such a tendency to, and I hear this, I've experienced this in the past, and you know, it's something I'm always working on. And I hear this from a lot of my clients is like when the relationship's going well, I feel good. And when the relationship is in a low, I feel bad. And you know, romantic relationships are truly like some of the most impactful, biggest parts of our lives. Like they're just big. And like it's so easy to equate how you feel with how it's going with the man. Like, or how he feels is how you feel. If he's in a good mood, you're in a good mood. If he's depressed, you're fucking anxious because you're like, how do I make this better? And you know, it's like there is a way to detach with love and just like let the relationship be what it is, let the dating experience be what it is over in this pocket, and to recognize that it's like merely a part of your experience and that all these other things are still happening. And to be able to just like stay in the moment of what's occurring rather than having your mental state or mental health be affected by the state of the relationship.
Mm. That's awesome. So what would and do you have any tips for listeners on dating or relationships?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, if I could like just have people take away one thing, it would be to just be aware of, come into connection with how your body's feeling. So like just in dating, you know, really being aware of like, how does my body feel in the presence of this man? Maybe he's not quite your preference. Maybe, you know, you usually date bad boys and this man is like a little nerdier, a little sweeter, but like how does your body feel in his presence is what I really encourage people to attune to. Does your body feel activated or does your body feel calm and safe? And similarly in relationships, like are you consistently just feeling very activated in your body, or are you able to maintain like a regulated nervous system with this human being? And that's like where, yeah, just kind of like number one takeaway that I would share is just always bringing it back to the sensations in your body and the presence of this other person.
Mm, mm. I love that. It's so many parallels to anything we do, health, fitness, nutrition, the works,
Yeah.
how does it make you feel connecting with your body?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what have you got happening and how can people find you and work with you?
Mm. Yeah, so the best place to connect with me, to find me, is on Instagram, and I'm assuming that you can that you'll link it, but the handle
Yes.
is at I am Caitlin Lili.
Mm.
And what I have going on right now is I do one-to-one coaching. And I do that both with couples and with women who are interested in getting into relationships. And I also have a group program that is starting on, well, November 30th for me. So that's probably December 1st in Australia.
Yeah.
But I have an 8-week group coaching program for single women. And this program is designed to support them on their dating journey. So both to give them the tools, how to date successfully, to stay in alignment with their goals and their values and the sensations in their body, and also to give them the tools to enter a grounded, loving, aligned partnership. And then the third way is I also run group programs for women who are in relationships. I am probably going to be running that again in the beginning of the year, but I don't have a precise start date just yet.
All good. And I'm guessing if people get in touch with you, they can get notified
Hop
when
on the waiting
you
list.
come out. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. But I'm sure there'll be plenty of people who are queuing up for that program on dating. So
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I think it's gonna be so fun. And what I really like about the groups is like doing it in community. And there's gonna be other women in the program, and it's so fun to be like, oh my gosh, I went on this date, and like I did this, and what should I say? And they can also like lean on each other for connection, which is always kind of the sweetest part of running the group programs, is seeing the connection between the women.
Because connection is so important to your
Absolutely.
mental and physical health, really. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, thank you for joining me today, Caitlin. That's been amazing. I'm sure everyone's going to draw so many nuggets out of that. It's amazing. Thank you for setting
Mm.
aside your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Sarah. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us today. Where's my little record button? Did I stop recording? There we go.